consensus at your table, or do you have different standards in different disciplines?
We already have guidelines set by the universities.
You have university guidelines.
Yes.
Good. Actually, if you could send me that link, that would be very useful to have. The question about what qualifies as authorship is, as I said earlier, it's one of the biggest points of controversy among faculty and among students. Students want to be published. Students do work that they think should be contributions to a paper. Often the students' work is not as big as they think it is, but even students who do little work sometimes are on papers and sometimes aren't, and it can be difficult to know. Did you all agree on what it takes to be a researcher?
To be an author.
Sorry, to be an author? To be an author after having been a researcher on a paper? Did your tables agree? Are the standards the same in all your fields? What about the meaning of authorship? How many papers have you seen that have over 100 authors on them in your field? Hundreds?
Yeah.
What's your field?
So it's not in my field, but it was in, I think, what is it? Physics.
Now the physics?
Ion streams, plasma.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So the whole page was just authors.
Just authors.
300 over.
And the physicists actually have a protocol for how they decide who's going to be an author that is different from what we see in the biological sciences, is different from what we see in the social sciences, is different from what we see in the humanities. And this is usually the result of a lot of fighting that results in a policy. The question of what you have to do to be any particular person in a list of authors is usually best set by that group of authors themselves. And a lot of recommendations say to do that before you start to write the paper, while you're still doing the research. There are a number of standards, formal, international standards for authorship and for criteria for authorship and publication. And we've named a few of them here. The most detailed probably comes in the biomedical sciences from the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. Is your journal, the Asia Pacific Journal of Public Health, do they subscribe to the ICMJE guidelines?
Yes.
Yes.
Because it's a research publication.
Yes.
My question to you is this: now, if you look at sources carefully, and I abide by those ethics committee or what have you, they are strictly science. Now I'm heading the social science research ethics committee. Now I have such a problem.
It's hard.
For social science people that says that these are also medical, these are also science,
Well,
and then their supervisors are not even listed as authors.
As authors on their papers.
So these are social science and humanities parts.
One of the things that you may want to look at is this second group, the Committee on Publication Ethics. COPE is a group that's mostly headquartered in England. They have a broader variety of people than biomedical. This first group here is about 1,800 journals have formally signed on internationally. And COPE has a number, they don't actually cite how many journals abide by their guidelines. But you're right, the standards for humanities and social science are different from the sciences, although the principles should be the same. ICMJE is the most specific. They say, first and foremost, substantial contributions to the intellectual component of the paper. So not just conception and design, not just having the idea, but actually formulating the research plan, the acquisition, analysis, or interpretation of data. Have to engage with the study itself and with the results of the study intellectually and make a significant contribution to that. Then, actually, an author has to do some writing. Either writing the original manuscript or working with different versions of the manuscript to the final revision. Then, final approval of the version to be published. How many of you have and I will say I have my name on a paper, then I didn't ever see the final version. And there's some things I would have not put there if I had seen the final version. Can I take accountability for a paper that I didn't see the final version of? At this point, it's out there. I have no choice. In December of 2014, the ICMJE added a final fourth criterion that is by far the longest in terms of number of words: agreement to be accountable for all aspects of the work. And this is what Dr. Lowe was talking about, making sure that you know who is responsible for all of the work, and that anybody who's an author says, I agree with everything here and I trust my colleagues that they've done good work. How do you know how to trust your colleagues? We'll come back to that in a second. People who don't meet all four criteria, again for ICMJE, which are the strictest standards, people who don't meet all four should be acknowledged, thanked for their contribution identified, but not given authorship credit because they can't take responsibility for the whole thing. Credit and responsibility go together. So that people who helped get the funding, or who have provided general supervision, or who have given administrative support, or who helped clean up the language, translated parts of it into English or out of another language, and then who provided samples or taken care of patients who've been part of the study, are in fact people who contributed and need to be named so that we know who did the work, but don't qualify as authors under these standards. That's a very strict standard, the goal of which is to be able to identify who did what, so that we don't have Dr. Huang saying, I didn't know about those data, but I want to take credit for the paper if it's a success. Are you all comfortable with that set of standards? Could you teach that to your students? And thinking about the question of oversight of a humanities group, should students publish a paper without their supervisor's name if the supervisor was intellectually engaged and overseeing it? At a minimum, that supervisor should be acknowledged. Yes? And say again what area you're in. So, you want to turn it off?
What?
She's
Oh,
hesitant to say something.
sorry.
All right, so it's off.
No, I